Let's do Conspiracy Corner.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores.
Joe?
What?
Let's do this.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1342, July 15th, 2024. 102 degrees on this day in 1988, and it was 49 degrees on this day in 1912. I hope you've gotten a hold of Aquaside. They've been keeping beaches and lake shores free of weeds and algae for more than 60 years with a great line of products made there in White Bear Lake. The products are easy to use. They work quickly. And yes, they're registered with the EPA and DNR. Don't let weeds overtake the swimming hole this summer. The kids hate it. Go down there with your cell phone, stare at the problem, call Aquaside. They'll help you identify it and get you the right products, and your beach is going to look great all the rest of the summer. Call Aquaside at 1-800-328-9350 or go to aquaside.com.
Hail the Flashlight King.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Heidt in the newsroom, and of course, the Rookie. Here is your Flashlight King, Fireworks Commissioner, and the Keeper of Common Sense, your mayor, Joe Souchere.
All right, Trump was shot Saturday. Shot at. The shooter missed, but I'm sure you've all seen the freeze frames of the bullet. So because Trump was grazed in the ear, I think it's a safe realization to think that he is living by virtue of what? A half inch?
Well, he turned.
He
turned to look at the graphic, correct?
I guess.
There was a graphic
I saw
on the screen.
it. I don't know what he was looking at, but he turned, yeah. And the bullet got him in the ear, and had he turned a little more or whatever, he's JFK. It's over. That's an amazing thing to digest. We're not yet 48 hours in. I've always said on big stories, you got to give it 48. This one needs a minimum of 72 because things have changed dramatically just in 48.
In what sense?
Learning more and more about the unsecured perimeter, for example. We didn't know any of that at the beginning of this on Saturday afternoon. But there's one fellow, I did see the interview with him. I believe I saw it as soon as Saturday. So this fellow was interviewed soon after the shooting. He was interviewed by a BBC guy named Gary O'Donoghue, who coincidentally is blind. I that's apropos of nothing, except I thought it was very interesting. I think as a blind guy, he might be a better interviewer in this case because he asked some interesting questions.
He did.
And by all accounts, we're going to play this because no fault or error can be found in Greg Smith's account of this. This was a very accurate account by a fellow named Greg Smith.
So we had a party here all day at the you can see behind us at the Brinkles Farm and Greenhouse here. We had a party, and we all decided, hey, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the field, stand by the trees up there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally. Right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, but we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle. We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police are like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And Next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling
Yep.
police and the Secret Service.
We were telling the police. We were pointing at him for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
binoculars?
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here? I mean, this is not a big place.
Did you see? I mean, obviously, everyone, when the shooting started, everyone was very panicked. Did you see what happened to him at all?
Oh yeah, they blew his head off.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, we just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching. But you're pretty sure they shot the guy.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
You saw that happen.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you see them go up to him afterwards, or?
They crawled up on the roof. They had their guns pointed at him, make sure he was dead. He was dead, and that was it. It was over.
It's incredibly shocking.
The guy was on the roof right there. You can see the white roof right there.
Did you get a look at him? Could you?
I no, other than he was in muted colors, tan type clothing. We saw the rifle flinging around as he was trying to crawl. I mean, we saw the rifle, 100%.
Do you know about guns? Do you know what kind of weapon it was?
Oh, I absolutely know about guns, for sure.
Do you know
No,
what
I mean, it was a rifle of some sort. I wouldn't know, I wasn't close enough to read the label on it,
No,
but
sure. But a high velocity
it was a
weapon.
rifle of some sort. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you process what you've just seen?
I don't know what to say, man. I'll tell you is, if I walked up close to there with anything that Secret Service considered a problem, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you right now. But I don't know why a guy who we're standing there pointing out to police and Secret Service is crawling up the roof.
If you see the map of the fairgrounds, the barn he was referring to, on which the Secret Service were standing, was essentially behind the bleachers behind Trump.
Yeah.
And
right.
the roof of the building the shooter was on was to their
north.
North, about 150 yards.
Mm-hmm. And then that Greg mentioned Brinkles Farms and greenhouses. That's even further north, across Whitestown Road. So I'm sure he migrated down into the yard of that AGR International where the shooter was on that roof.
That guy's name was Greg Smith, and the BBC reporter was Gary O'Donoghue. Now, when it first happened, which is why these stories need 48 to 72 hours, if not longer, assassination attempts probably get their own time frame. They probably get a week. A week.
Sure.
But when it first happened, all I heard was some popping that didn't sound strong enough to be a rifle, And I thought, well, why isn't anybody hurt? Well, that just shows you. I didn't know yet that a volunteer firefighter named Corey Camperatori died. And apparently he died quite literally as a hero, protecting his wife and kids. He got on top of them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then a guy named David Dutch was shot in the liver and chest. He's been placed in an induced coma. Another guy named James Copenhaver, 74 years old, stable condition. He might have been shot in the wrist. But see, I didn't know that even in the first 20 to 30 minutes, that was unknown. But because I was wondering, well, if Trump was shot at, why isn't anybody else hurt? Well, of course, other people were hurt. And
it took forever for them, and I actually found it on USA Today of all places, to post the layout.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out where the victims were. The victims sitting right behind him, and I watched that tape over and over. And then the other thing, they have not, maybe they have by now, but as of an hour ago, they hadn't told us what caliber the rifle was that Thomas Crooks was shooting. Was it a
You know, these rifles come in all different sizes, caliber. For you, it'd be size of bullet, right? 22 being the smallest, and 38 and on up. Go ahead, John.
FBI office director in Pittsburgh said it was an AR style 5.56 rifle. You would know more what that means.
That's a 5.56. Yeah, that's a common AR caliber. Yeah.
And a 20-year-old named Thomas Matthew Crooks was the dead shooter. He's now dead. He was the shooter, and he had borrowed. He had taken his father's rifle to this scene. Now, we have Mr. Tinfoil Hat with us today. He's to my left.
Yep. I came in hot.
You were very hot when you came in, and you may offer some of your tinfoil theories. You seem rather convinced that this was.
You're no one, and I love all of you guys. We've been friends for a number of years. No one's going to convince me that this guy acted alone.
Well, why? What do you base that on?
Suspicion. I base that on the current climate, gut instinct.
Well, interestingly, the social media, which is a vast echo chamber of nonsense in cases like this, I did encounter numerous social media soliloquies. They weren't being interviewed necessarily, but people who volunteered to look into the camera and talk, and they were identifying themselves as former snipers, Green Berets, a Canadian sniper who holds the world record for distance, and they all said that something was amiss. Many of them placed a great deal of responsibility on a Secret Service failures to have secured the rooftops. There weren't that many, they pointed out. For God's sakes, you should have.
Well, the perfect example of that was the photo of the gal where it said, just imagine that they chose Melissa McCarthy over SEAL Team 6.
Well, there was one Secret Service gal who couldn't. She couldn't reholster her pistol. But she was nervous and chaotic.
Sure.
And
back to these so-called ex-snipers.
They're all over the media.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing they got right, and I agree with them, and I think that it's the biggest part of the story, is this is a huge failure on the part of the Secret Service. This is a disaster for the Secret Service.
And I've been reading about that and thinking about it, and I don't want to go down the DEI hire road. Many people,
with the gal.
People are. Many people are saying the new head of the Secret Service is a woman who used to be the head of Pepsi Security, Pepsi company security.
Kimberly Cheadle?
Yes, and maybe hiring her was an attempt at diversity to bring in a female. I have no idea. For all I know, she's the best in the business. But the other thing that was pointed out is, why are you hiring Secret Service people who aren't even as tall as the subject they're trying to protect? Because whether you like it or not, in Britain, they call these guys bullet takers. You're supposed to be the one who will take the bullet. Well, you could have shot over the head of that female agent I saw, who seemed to be really, really addled and befuddled about what to do. I don't want to go down that road, because if you go down that road, and it's a road that can be taken, but if you go down that road, you're going to have, let me rephrase it. It's tempting to go down that road because of failures we're seeing in other walks of life.
And that's why I want to say, Joe, why? Why don't we go down that road?
Well,
this world is so effed up to such a degree. Why would anything surprise you guys?
Well, now, you're getting me a bit off track, but it's a fundamental plank of the mystery to undo meritocracy. Everyone's going to pass this course. Everyone's going to get a ribbon. It's a fundamental desire of the mystery to erase competition, this woman should be able to race against this male. B as in B, S as in S. It's a fundamental tenet of the mystery to destroy entrepreneurship, competitiveness, meritocracy. It's fundamental. I've made the joke for years that, within our lifetime, even, you're going to go to the doctor for a gallbladder surgery and somebody's going to fix your knee. That we're suffering the loss of meritocracy. We hired a guy in charge of nuclear waste who stole women's suitcases because he was so effed up. And then is it the Surgeon General who's trans, or even more important than that?
No, it's the
even more important than that.
It's the security.
Well, no, it's
hold on.
So let me try to stay on track.
Here we go.
Let me stay on track. So that's a topic you could embrace. That is the Secret Service now infiltrated by diversity, equity, and inclusion, which unfortunately for those who wish it to see come to fruition has not resulted in great results. Yeah.
I think I disagree with you on the meritocracy of women being in the Secret Service. And as far as the lady not being able to holster her firearm, can you imagine her adrenaline level at that point?
I've stated that. And I haven't said women should not be in the Secret Service. What I'm stating is, are you getting the best women to be in the Secret Service?
All right. I think the main criticism for me, anyway, the one I would level at the Secret Service is, like you said, get taller people than Trump. We shouldn't have any shorties up there. Let's get taller people up there.
But that has thrown us off the track. We've had a shooting of a presidential candidate, or the attempted assassination of a presidential candidate. And as we've said about other things that have come up in this show, nothing can be what it is. Nothing can be what it appears to be. It appears to be as a lonely, loner, dork, screwed up 20-year-old got a hold of his old man's rifle and, for reasons known only to him, thought he should go shoot Trump.
But, okay, here's why I want to push back just a little bit. And I'm not trying to be insensitive by what I'm about to say, but this was my initial reaction because I read the same thing that you guys did yesterday. It's one thing for the screwed up lone wolf kid that got picked on in high school to bring a gun to his high school and open fire. That's one thing, right? And I'm not trying to be insensitive about that. It's another to get up on top of a building and attempt to take out a presidential candidate. That's another level of, okay, wait a minute here. Am I making sense?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you're right.
Because when you open fire at school, you're retaliating against a bunch of kids that you know personally,
and you don't anticipate that you're being watched through a scope by Secret Service.
Correct. So it's just a different level of, wait a minute here. Am I making any sense by saying that?
Well, the one thing that I wonder about is if the Secret Service saw this guy before he shot, why didn't they shoot him?
He was under the peak.
No, I know. He was on the downside of the roof.
The other side. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But did they have to wait? Because they didn't need permission, right? That's what I read. They didn't need permission to take him out.
They could shoot him. That was their job.
Yeah. But as far as I know, I should say.
But do they have to wait till a shot is fired?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think if they see danger, for the president or whoever the person is, they can shoot. But there was the other thing I saw yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw this. I think it was a Daily Mail story, perhaps, that they didn't know if the snipers for the Secret Service could see him because there was a tree in between the two buildings. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen the video of the Secret Service fellas, you can see the one guy kind of go, what the hell? He looks up.
Yeah.
And then the first shot
for a second.
Yeah, the first shot rings out, and then all hell breaks loose.
And hindsight is always perfect,
right?
Yeah, in my hindsight, in my mind, that's all played out. Them becoming aware of the shooter, and then the shooter shooting, and then them killing the shooter.
Yep.
in my mind, this all played out in 10 to 15 seconds, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to acquire that shooter and then take him out. And I think the shot that hit President Trump was the first shot. This is opinion of mine. And every shot the shooter took afterwards was wild, because there's a little bit of kick to a 5.56, and he has to reacquire the target in his scope, and he didn't do it fast or accurate enough. And I think that's why we had so many people shot in the background. That's just my opinion, though, just from doing a lot of shooting myself.
If there was ever a time when exercise might be beneficial, just to